We could lie. We could make it a whole thing of fiction.
To me, a working collaboration is one of those extreme sports. You're out on a limb, not knowing if you can even do what you've signed up to do.
Yeah, this is a kind of extreme sport.
For me, I don't join in with life. It's like being up a mountain. Although it's not because it's with you, and you're easy to talk to.
What if, instead of the text only being on paper and canvas, it's on other things like extreme sportswear? For example, like we could make. I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, which is always a bad idea, but it could be a traffic cone or a toilet seat.
Can you film this word? I've had it for years. It goes up on a notice board wherever I live.
Would you be lonely without it?
No, the words is in my head. There'd be a lot less mental health problems in the world if the word lonely didn't exist.
Yeah, it's like one of those words that you breathe life into the moment you say it. A bit like depression.
People are ashamed of saying they're lonely. You can be lonesome, which is fine, but lonely is a loaded word.
There are a few words like that. You know, I don't like it when somebody says they're depressed. I know that it's a difficult one because there is such a thing as clinical depression, an illness that I'm aware of. I just think we should be careful about throwing that term around willy-nilly. It means so many things, doesn't it? It comes with so much baggage. If you describe yourself as depressed to your friends and family all the time, it can have the effect of reinforcing it. And if that word didn't exist, we'd have to find other ways of describing how we're feeling. I know there's a whole sea of people who are going to shout at me now. I can't say there's no such thing as depression. I know there is. I'm not qualified to say any of this.
Depression is seen as the lesser of mental illnesses. It's not schizophrenia, bipolar, or eating disorders. Depression's not in the same league as those. Apparently, you can just pull yourself out of depression. It's a great equalizer, depression. Once you've had it life, it doesn't quite seem or feel the same.
No, I wouldn't change it for the world.
There's not much you can do about it if you're going to live in this world.
When I meet a new person, girl or boy, who are a bit younger than me, for example, what happens often is that we get to know each other bit by bit through conversation. It's what people like to talk about. It's their experiences of life. What I find is that it sounds quite bad to say this, but I figure out through having conversations with people that if they haven't had their own personal experience of depression or loneliness or hopelessness, then I find that I don't see much depth in them.
That's a bit controversial.
It's not like I'm judging them. I don't want to know you anymore. It's not that. I just think to myself, there are things about yourself and the world that you learn through having depression or through being lonely, and if you haven't had the experience, then we're not really on the same page. I know that's bad. I feel awful saying that.
Depression is a part of being spiritual. Lots of people who go to the Buddhist center don't go there because they're happy to begin with. They're there because they're looking for a sense of calm, of peace. And they usually want this on the back of having a low or difficult period.
It's been a while since I was on antidepressants. A couple of months last summer, but it was a very mild episode. I wasn't depressed or hopeless or feeling like I didn't want to get out of bed. I just wasn't comfortable in my own skin. I couldn't quite relax around people. So I began taking a small dose and felt much better. First time I was depressed around 5 years ago. That was really bad. Just nothing had any excitement in it. I didn't want to do anything.
You know when you feel good from the times you don't feel good? I wasn't happy with who I was when I was younger. I went to hospital to have ECT treatment to make me normal.
What's CCT?
Jolts of electric shocks through your brains, basically.
They still do that?
Yes, it's not so barbaric now. Sometimes it's really useful.
Does it have an effect?
It does on the percentage of people, but as with all treatment, you can get side effects. So some people may lose part of their memory, and that includes stuff that's really valuable to them. It's not used as much now, but sometimes it's the only treatment left to help certain people.
I don't know much about it. I thought it was the sort of thing that would be outlawed by now, but obviously not.
I don't know if it's painful. I think it's more disorientating and tiring. Its pain would be emotional pain. It doesn't leave the whole person behind in some cases. It leaves a version of someone.
I think I'm shallow because I don't make political statements and I don't know a lot. I feel like I don't know lots of things that I should know, but then I know lots of things that perhaps I shouldn't know, things I've seen.
I said to my tutor recently, I don't make political statements because I don't feel like I've got the right to. She's like, why haven't you got the right to? And I said, I don't know enough about art and politics. And she was like, fair enough. And I could tell in her face she was thinking, it's your loss.
Yeah, but why should it be your loss?
What am I pissed off about?
What are you pissed off about?
Basically, I don't feel good enough. That's essentially it. At the bottom of it all, I don't feel content to stay the way I am now. I need to do something more or gain something in order to feel better about myself.
It's to do with acceptance. Do you want to be accepted?
Yeah.
By who? By the establishment?
Yes, but who are they?
I'm just making it worse.
No, you're not.
I didn't even realise that residencies are quite high up on artists' agendas. You know, someone I know has applied for residencies and they've just given up because they never get accepted. And they said, "Oh my God, how did you're on a you're on a residency?" And I said, "Yes, but I didn't do anything to get it. I just went for an interview. I sold myself." But you wrote that piece to get the residency.
Yeah.
Which was to me highly academic.
Was it?
Yes.
That is amazing because it didn't feel like that to me.
I felt like, oh God, he's not going to get on with me because he's clever and I'm not. I mean, I'm clever, but not in a clever way, not in that way.
You sound exactly like me talking to my mates or my mum. I wish you could have heard me for the past 3 years. All I've been saying to people is, I can't do this. I'm not as smart as him.
That's why you're the person to do it, because you think you can't do it.
Exactly. This is it.
It's a bit like, I have this illusion about stars. They have a huge empty space, and the only thing that can fill it is the drive to be accepted by other people. And of course it never filled, which is probably why stars live really, really miserable lives. But your piece to get the residency didn't come across as someone that doesn't think much of themselves.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I suppose that's good.
No, it's very good. It's good enough to put me off doing a residency.
Was it?
Well, it felt like it was, but I never for 1 minute doubted that I wasn't going to do it.
So my application actually put you off?
Slightly, yeah, because I felt inadequate. But then I met you, and you're not the piece you wrote.
Right.
It's an aspect of you, but the biggest part of you isn't the piece that you wrote. It's more to do with reading between the lines. I knew you ticked all the boxes that you had to tick, but there was still a human being in there.
Yeah.
Whereas, to me, I think academics, they're in a league of their own. But it's ingrained. Your first love for something is ingrained in you. I haven't got much choice in it. You fall in love with certain types of art and it stays with you.
It's like falling in love with a person, isn't it?
Precisely. And you often don't really like the person.
That's so true. That's why I've been single for 2.5 years, because the last time I fell in love, I came out of it wounded. Big time. I was knocked off my perch.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I've spent 35 years looking for someone to save, or looking for some older man to look after me, and now I actually am the older man.
Yeah, so it's your turn now.
So now I've got to look after myself, really.
Or someone else.
The the older man in me. That's a totally romantic notion.
Well, it's a nice notion. You know, someone's once sent me a letter that they'd written to themselves as a 16-year-old, which I thought was nice.
The thing is, I can tolerate myself now.
Tolerate.
Well, it's quite a good stage to be at, to tolerate yourself.
Yeah.
It's just other people I have trouble with now.
We'll start with yourself. Look after number one.
Precisely, but leave a space and room for someone. Because I was thinking about that last night, about including pictures with text about love. And I've completely forgot what I was thinking about. Yeah, it was that when you fall in love, it's not that you try to stop your heart opening up to someone, but you actually haven't got any choice.
You don't, do you? It's so true. You know, the other thing about love that I think is amazing too. Once I had one relationship that I considered to be mutually loving.
Yeah.
And I expected the next one to be similar in some way, or for the first one to have given me some tools with which to understand the next one. But the next one was totally different again.
Don't work like that, does it?
No. The experience that I thought that I had accounted for nothing. Like, aren't I supposed to be older and a little wiser and able to control my feelings now? But I couldn't.
No, because the heart just doesn't want it, doesn't it? The thing with I don't know if I've ever been in love, but I always think of the heart as a flower that's going to have to open itself up, because love to me is the most beautiful thing in the world. The most highly fragranced flowers in the world know that they haven't got long to live, and that's what being in love feels like for me. It feels like a flower opening up and knowing it's gonna die soon.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to die if it doesn't open, and it's going to die if it does open. But you know, to avoid love is a worse fate than to die from love.
Yes.
God, let's hope that's cut out of the video.
I hope it's not.
This is the whole thing about being here with you. I've taken such risks about telling you this stuff, and you haven't walked off and said, "Oh, fuck that." And you're a straight man, and I'm telling you lots of stuff, but you're just a man to me, and things that hurt you hurt me.
That's it.
And I'm grateful I can tell you stuff and you're not judging me.
Well, I mean, a person who judges is surely just more scared than you are. The judgment has got to come out of that, surely, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
Yeah. To judge someone is to be threatened by them in some way, right?
Yes.
It aren't mistakes, are they? It's not quite the same thing as getting married to someone and then realising you married the wrong person.
I wonder how many people actually have that thought. I reckon every single couple that gets married thinks that at least once.
Certainly, like 1 in 3 does, because that's the statistic.
1 in 3.
Ends up in divorce.
Really?
It's probably more than that.
Just a question. Who am I afraid of not being accepted by? Who is it exactly? It's got to be someone.
It's not yourself, is it?
Myself? Who else? I know for a fact that it's not my mom. She'll always accept me.
What about your tutors, your educators?
This is a difficult one because there's so many of them and there's barely any intimacy or solid relationships that have been established with any of them because the school is so big. One tutor said, this is really different from what you've been doing before. Oh, have you arrived here from there? And I said, I'm just pissed off with overthinking art, with it being academic and intellectual, and I'm having to justify what I'm doing all the time, and it was killing my creativity. So these drawings are a respite from that kind of analysis. And she said, is that because you think that's what artists should do? And just the way she said, it was so annoying. She really enjoyed saying it because she knew it would get me, and it did.
I suppose that's a constructive challenge, though. Oh, ours weren't like that.
Were they not?
No.
What was yours like?
Can't totally disclose everything about my art school because it would sound like a soap opera. I'll tell you when we were off record.
I went to the National Festival of Quilts in Birmingham.
Oh, wow.
On my own. I loved it.
Quilts are good.
They inspired the work I've done this year.
What I want to get from doing this residency is to realise that whatever I do is all right. I'd stopped doing things because I thought that people were judging me. There was someone at work who looked at my art and said she'd love to have the time to do something decorative and meaningless. And I found that so offensive because I'm a textile designer by trade. And I thought, you've got your meaningless stuff all right, love.
So she basically meant that she wished she had the time to do what you were doing.
Decorative and meaningless. But why is decorative meaningless?
Well, this is it.
So does that mean all fashion? Does that mean Alexander McQueen, all his work is meaningless?
Mm-hmm.
All decorative painters, you know, like John Piper, Raoul Duffy, all the artists that textile designers like, does that mean their work's meaningless?
Mm-hmm.
Some of Matisse's paintings were decorative, so I've got a real chip on my shoulder that decorative equates to meaningless.
Well, something can be decorative and something can be meaningless. They're two very different things, are they? I mean, she put those things together clumsily.
Well, she put it together when she was off guard. But I was raging over that.
I'm not surprised. I got told something similar. He's a former tutor outside of school, so he's more impartial. He's much harsher than anyone in school is. He told me that I haven't got what it takes to be an artist. Actually, I'm a designer, apparently. He's actually a really nice guy.
You haven't got what it takes to be an artist?
It's just various value judgments. And what are they based on? They're not based on anything, are they? They're completely subjective. They might be consensual, like they might share the same standards with other people, and then there's a consensus. Oh yes, I agree with them. I agree with them. I'm part of that system of beliefs, of those system of values. But essentially, what is value?
It's subjective, isn't it? It should be objective. It's like if you're a singer. You know how Bowie just died? Well, now it's too late for the critics who had already assessed Black Star. Now they can't reassess it because he's dead. They want to say it was really good, but it's too late because they've already said it wasn't great.
Really? Is that what happened?
Yeah. And do you think people like Bowie ever worried that people wouldn't like his records? He just did whatever he wanted.
He's the king of reinvention.
I loved Bowie, but I never really analysed why he was good until now. And now I realise that he made it okay for people to be themselves. Whose opinion should make it okay for you to be yourself? It should be your own opinion, shouldn't it? I've got to the point where I only remember the one negative comment at the end of an exhibition rather than the good comments.
That's like if you have a bad experience in a hotel, you'll tell 9 people, but if you have a good one, you'll only tell 1 or 2.
But we're all like that.
Bad news sells newspapers. People who are a lot older and wiser will, before they die, pass on a little bit of wisdom, won't they? And I've heard the one that goes, what you fear never happens. We're all carrying around these fears, but they actually probably never happen.
But the anxiety is the only real thing about the fear.
Yeah.
It's about something that's not going to happen.
He who fears death dies twice.
I fear life more than I fear death.